Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The first time I saw the cracks in our marriage was like catching a glimpse of a crack in the ice, subtle, almost imperceptible, but with the potential to swallow me whole. Emma and I had been fighting more frequently lately. Little things, like who left the dishes in the sink or who forgot to take out the trash, had escalated into shouting matches. But tonight was different. Tonight, Emma was going to stay at a friend's house for a couple of days, as she put it. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the lawn as I watched Emma's car pull out of the driveway. I stood at the front window, watching her go, the air in the house feeling colder after she left. My mind buzzed with the day's arguments, the petty grievances, and a gnawing sense that something was amiss. I needed a distraction. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and decided to check on the neighbor, Greg, who had borrowed my lawn mower over a month ago. I had tried to get it back a few times, but each time, he'd put me off with vague promises. Tonight, with Emma gone, seemed like the perfect time to deal with it. I walked across the street, beer in hand, to Greg's car, parked haphazardly in his driveway. As I approached, I noticed Greg sitting inside, the engine idling. His face was half lit by the streetlights, his eyes focused on the dashboard. I knocked on the window. Greg jumped, his eyes darting to meet mine. He rolled down the window. "Hey, Jake. What's up?" "I'm just here to get my lawn mower back," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "You've had it for over a month now." Greg's face flushed slightly. "Yeah, about that. I've been meaning to." But before he could finish, something caught my eye. The headlights from a car briefly illuminated a figure approaching from the direction of Emma's friend's house. I squinted into the darkness, recognizing the familiar shape of Emma's car. My heart skipped a beat, but I shook off the unsettling feeling. It was just Emma coming home early. Then, something happened that made my stomach churn. Through the sliver of the car window, I saw a reflection that stopped me dead in my tracks. Emma was in the passenger seat, but she wasn't alone. Greg's hand was on her head, and she was. My heart raced as I realized what was happening. I took a step back, my mind struggling to process the scene unfolding before me. It was unmistakable. Emma was satisfying Greg in a way that no wife should ever satisfy another man. Anger and betrayal surged through me like a tidal wave. I wanted to confront them, to scream, to make them stop, but my legs felt like lead. "Jake? You all right?" Greg's voice pulled me back to the present. His eyes darted nervously between me and the car. "You look." "Don't," I snapped, cutting him off. "Just don't. I've seen enough." Without another word, I turned and stormed back across the street. The once familiar warmth of my house now felt like a prison. I slammed the door behind me and paced the living room, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge. Emma had betrayed me in the most unforgivable way possible. The righteous anger within me was a potent fuel, and I knew I couldn't let this go. It was clear now. This was not just a marital spat, this was a betrayal of the deepest kind. I felt a cold resolve settling over me. I would make her pay for this, for all the lies and the deceit. I would break her world, just as she had broken mine. The divorce proceedings began the next day. The process was a blur of legal jargon and cold, hard decisions. The lawyers spoke of assets and custody, but all I could think about was the image of Emma and Greg. It was all too clear that this was the end of our shared life. The day the divorce was finalized, I felt a peculiar mix of liberation and desolation. Emma was gone from my life, and with her, a chapter of my own story had ended. The last few years had been consumed by arguments and mistrust, but now, there was a finality to it. The paths that once crossed had diverged completely. As I packed up the remnants of our life together, the bitterness of betrayal lingered like a sour aftertaste. Greg and Emma were no longer part of my world, but the scars of their actions would remain. It was over, and our lives would never intersect again. In the weeks that followed, I made a point of avoiding any encounters with Emma or Greg. Our lives had separated, as had our shared history. I was free, but the freedom came with the weight of a broken past. And though the immediate storm had passed, the emotional aftermath was something I'd have to navigate alone. The next few weeks after the divorce are a whirlwind of change. I'm living in a small, rented apartment, the space much too empty for my taste. The walls are bare, save for a few haphazardly hung pictures, and the kitchen feels more like a storage unit than a place for preparing meals. My routine has settled into a monotonous rhythm: work, gym, home. But the routine provides a semblance of stability in the chaos that followed Emma's betrayal. It's a Tuesday evening when my phone buzzes with a new message. I glance at it, surprised to see a text from Rick, an old friend from college. I haven't seen him in years. His message reads, "Hey Jake, long time no see. Let's catch up. I'm in town." I respond, agreeing to meet up, and we arrange to meet at a local bar later that night. The prospect of seeing a familiar face is oddly comforting. Rick and I had shared countless memories back in college, good times, bad times, and everything in between. The bar is a dimly lit place, with a rustic feel and a selection of craft beers. I spot Rick at a corner table, waving me over. He's older now, grayer around the temples, but his smile is just as wide as I remember. "Jake," he says, standing to give me a hug. "It's been ages." "Rick, it's great to see you," I reply, clapping him on the back. "How've you been?" We order drinks and settle into conversation. Rick fills me in on his life, his job, his family, and his recent move to the area. I share the basics of what's been happening in my life, carefully avoiding the specifics of my recent troubles. The conversation shifts, and Rick's eyes narrow with concern. "You seem a bit off," he says, studying me. "Something on your mind?" I hesitate but decide that a bit of honesty might be good. "It's been rough, honestly. My ex-wife, she left me for someone else. It's been a tough few months." Rick's expression darkens. "Man, I'm sorry to hear that. People can be real pieces of work sometimes. How are you holding up?" "I'm managing," I say, taking a sip of my beer. "Just trying to move on, you know." We continue to talk, the camaraderie of old friendship providing some comfort. Just as we're finishing our second round, the door to the bar swings open, and in walks Greg. He spots me immediately and freezes, his eyes widening. Emma is with him, her hand gripping his arm possessively. "Jake," Greg says, his voice too loud and forced. What a surprise. Emma's eyes meet mine, and a look of surprise morphs into a smirk. "Jake," she says, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Didn't expect to see you here." My fists clench involuntarily. Rick notices and leans in, whispering, "Do you want me to handle this?" "No, I've got this," I say, my voice low and steady. I stand up and approach them, trying to keep my anger in check. "Greg, Emma," I say coolly. "What a coincidence." Greg clears his throat, obviously uncomfortable. "We were just out for a drink. Didn't know you'd be here." Emma's smirk fades, replaced by an icy glare. "Well, we don't have to stay if you're going to make a scene." I ignore her and address Greg. "So, are you going to return my lawn mower anytime soon, or do I need to make other arrangements?" Greg shifts uneasily, glancing at Emma. "Right, the mower. I'll get it to you this weekend. Sorry about the delay." "Fine," I say, turning on my heel. "Enjoy your evening." I walk back to Rick, my face flushed with anger. "Sorry about that." Rick looks concerned. "You okay? That seemed pretty intense." "Yeah, I'm fine," I lie, though my hands are still shaking. "Let's just finish up here." As the night wears on, I try to put the encounter out of my mind, but the sting of seeing Emma with Greg, so casually, so comfortably, is impossible to ignore. It feels like a public declaration of their betrayal, a stark reminder of everything I've lost. By the time I head home, the weight of the day's events feels almost unbearable. The anger has simmered into a cold resolve. I need to figure out my next steps, not just for closure but for my own peace of mind. The next morning, I'm at my office, trying to focus on work, when my phone buzzes again. This time, it's a voicemail from a private investigator named Carla, who I had hired a few weeks back. I listened to the message, my heart racing. "Jake, this is Carla. I've got some information for you. It's important. Call me when you get a chance." My mind races with possibilities. What new twist could there be? I call Carla back immediately, feeling a surge of nervous energy. The truth, whatever it may be, is waiting to be uncovered. Carla's office is located in a nondescript building a few miles from my apartment. It's a quiet, no-frills place with beige walls and minimal decor. I step inside, the air conditioning a welcome relief from the sweltering summer heat. Carla, a woman in her late 40s with a no-nonsense demeanor, greets me with a firm handshake. "Jake, come in. Have a seat," she says, gesturing to a pair of chairs in front of her desk. I sit down, feeling a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Carla looks at me, her expression serious. "So, what have you found?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Carla leans back in her chair, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk. "I've been following Emma and Greg, as you requested. I've got some information that might interest you." She pulls out a folder and opens it, revealing a stack of photographs and documents. These are recent images of Emma and Greg. It appears they've been spending quite a lot of time together. I flip through the photos, each one more damning than the last. Emma and Greg are together at various locations, a cafe, a park, even a weekend getaway. The images are candid, showing their interactions in public places, and they are undeniably intimate. But that's not all, Carla continues. I dug a little deeper and found something concerning. She slides a document across the desk. It's a copy of a lease agreement for a storage unit in Emma's name. The address is in a different part of town, not far from where Greg lives. Carla's eyes meet mine. "This lease was signed just before your divorce was finalized. It looks like they've been planning something. I suggest you check out the storage unit." A cold shiver runs down my spine. "You're telling me there's more to this?" Carla nods. "I think so. It's worth investigating." I leave her office with a newfound urgency. The lease document feels like a key to understanding what Emma and Greg have been hiding. The storage unit's address is scribbled on a piece of paper, and I head there directly. The facility is a large, industrial-looking building with a high fence and security cameras. I enter through the gate, feeling a knot of anxiety in my stomach. The storage units are lined up in neat rows, each one secured with a heavy lock. I find the unit listed on the lease and pull out a set of bolt cutters, which I've brought just in case. The lock snaps open with a loud clink. I push open the heavy door and shine a flashlight inside. The unit is filled with boxes, furniture, and various household items. I move cautiously, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Among the items, I find a box labeled "Personal." I open it, and inside, I discover a collection of documents and photographs. The documents are financial records, bank statements, loan agreements, and receipts. But it's the photographs that catch my eye. They show Emma and Greg in various stages of intimacy, some of them taken in what looks like a bedroom. My mind races as I sift through the material. It's clear that Emma and Greg have been building a life together, one that was hidden from me. The financial documents suggest they were preparing for something significant, a future together that was planned well in advance. As I'm about to leave, I hear footsteps approaching. I freeze, my heart pounding. I peer through a crack in the door and see two security guards approaching, their flashlights bobbing in the distance. I quickly gather the evidence and resecure the storage unit. I slip away into the shadows, my pulse racing. I drive back to my apartment, the weight of the new information pressing heavily on my shoulders. I need to process what I've found and decide what to do next. The evidence points to a deeper betrayal, one that goes beyond simple infidelity. The following morning, I decide to confront Emma directly. I need answers, and I can't wait any longer. I head to her apartment, the one she moved into after the divorce. It's a modest place, but I've learned it's a reflection of her new life with Greg. I ring the doorbell, and after a moment, Emma opens the door. Her face is a mix of surprise and irritation. "Jake? What are you doing here?" she asks, her tone defensive. "We need to talk," I say, pushing past her into the apartment. "I found something you need to explain." Emma's eyes widen as I pull out the photographs and documents from the storage unit. "What is this?" she demands. "It's everything," I say, holding up the evidence. "It's proof that you and Greg have been planning a future together." "What's this about? Why didn't you tell me?" Emma's face pales. She looks around, as if searching for an escape. "Jake, I can explain." Before she can finish, the door swings open and Greg walks in, his face clouded with anger. "What's going on here?" "Greg, I found out about your little secret," I say, holding up the documents. "Care to explain?" Greg's eyes dart between Emma and me. "This isn't the place for this conversation. Let's handle this somewhere else." I see the fear in their eyes, and it only fuels my resolve. "No, we're talking now. I want the truth." Emma looks like she's about to cry. "Jake, it wasn't supposed to end like this. We were going to tell you everything eventually." Greg steps forward, his voice firm. "We're done with this. Leave now, before things get worse." I stare at them, the realization that they've been hiding so much more than I thought sinking in. "This isn't over," I say, turning on my heel and walking out the door. "I'll be back." As I leave their apartment, I feel a mix of anger and determination. There's more to uncover, and I'm not done yet. The betrayal runs deeper than I realized, and I'm committed to finding out every last detail. The game has changed, and I'm determined to see it through to the end. The confrontation at Emma's apartment leaves me simmering with a potent mix of anger and confusion. I'm determined to get to the bottom of this twisted web of deceit. With the documents and photographs in hand, I head to the local cafe where Rick had suggested we meet again. I need advice, and I trust Rick to offer a clear perspective. The cafe is a cozy spot with a laid-back atmosphere, but today, it feels almost claustrophobic. I find Rick sitting at a table near the back, his expression concerned as I approach. "Jake, you look like you've been through the ringer," Rick says, standing to greet me. "Yeah, it's been a rough few days," I reply, sitting down and placing the folder on the table. "I need your help. Look at this." Rick flips through the documents and photographs, his brows knitting together in confusion. "This is a lot. But what does it all mean?" I take a deep breath. Emma and Greg have been planning something together. The photos, the financial documents, they were preparing for a life together. But there's more. I feel like there's something missing. Rick leans back, thinking. "It sounds like they were hiding something big. Have you considered that there might be more going on? Maybe they were involved in something beyond just a relationship." I nod, feeling the weight of his words. "I thought about that. The documents suggest they were planning something significant. I just can't figure out what." Rick taps his fingers on the table, deep in thought. "You need to confront them again, but this time, you should be prepared for anything." I agree and decide to visit Emma and Greg once more. I prepare myself for the possibility that there might be more to uncover. As I drive back to their apartment, my mind races with potential scenarios. When I arrive, I notice that the lights are on, but there's no sign of activity. I knock on the door, and after a moment, Greg opens it, his face a mix of annoyance and resignation. "Jake, what now?" he asks, rubbing his temples. "I need answers," I say firmly. "There's something you're not telling me." Greg sighs and steps aside to let me in. Emma is sitting on the couch, looking distraught. She glances at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and frustration. "Jake, please, just sit down," Emma pleads. "We owe you an explanation." I sit down, clutching the documents tightly. "I want to know what's really going on. Why were you two hiding all of this?" Emma takes a deep breath. "There's something we've been keeping from you. Greg and I were planning to start a new life together, yes. But the reason we were so secretive was because..." She hesitates, and Greg takes over. "Because we're not just together. We've been working on a scheme, one that involves a lot more than just personal betrayal. The financial documents are part of a larger plan." I stare at him, incredulous. "What kind of scheme?" Greg looks at Emma, who nods, and then he continues. "We've been involved in a scheme to defraud investors through a fake real estate development project. We were using your name and identity to secure loans and manipulate documents. The storage unit was our base for the operation." The revelation hits me like a punch to the gut. "You've been using me as a cover for your illegal activities?" Emma's eyes fill with tears. "We didn't mean for it to get so out of hand. At first, it was just a way to get ahead, but then things spiraled. We thought we could clean up the mess before anyone noticed." I feel a surge of rage and betrayal that's far deeper than I imagined. "You've not only been unfaithful but involved in criminal activities that could ruin lives, including mine." Greg stands up, his demeanor shifting from defensive to defiant. "We were desperate. But now that you know, there's no going back. We're done with this chapter, and so are you." Emma wipes her tears. "Jake, we're sorry. But you need to stay out of this. It's too dangerous now." I stand up, my hands shaking with fury. "You've lied and manipulated me from the start. I'm done with both of you. This is over." As I turn to leave, I hear sirens in the distance. Rick, who had been waiting nearby, must have called the authorities, suspecting that things could escalate. I catch a glimpse of flashing lights through the window as I walk out. I drive away, the weight of the betrayal heavy on my shoulders. The truth is finally out, and it's more complex and damaging than I ever imagined. Emma and Greg's lives are about to be upended, but so are mine. The shock of their deceit and criminal activities will have a lasting impact on me. In the days that follow, I cut all ties with Emma and Greg. The legal consequences for their scheme will unfold, and their lives will be irrevocably changed. As for me, I try to piece together my own life, grappling with the betrayal and the chaos it caused. The finality of our separation brings a strange sense of relief mixed with residual anger. The road ahead is uncertain, but I'm determined to rebuild and move forward. The scars of the past will remain, but the deception is finally revealed, and the chapter of lies and manipulation has come to a close.